All right. Are we all here?
Good evening.
Everybody.
Doing well, doing well, doing
Good.
well.
Good. I was with another group and lost track of time. We were trying to solve a problem. I hope everybody's having a good week. We'll go ahead and jump on in. It's time for us to get started. Uh, Graduation information came out today. Y'all don't need that, but um, please remember that we do not have just as a reminder, we don't have a summer ceremony for y'all. Y'all will still graduate the last Friday in July. I always get that question, if they don't have a ceremony, do we still graduate? Yes, you do. But you'll come back and walk in December. So if you saw that information come out for graduation today, don't be sad. You'll get your opportunity. It'll just take a little while. All right. So Dr. Griffin Jordan is up tonight. So she's going to lead us. So I'm going to get out of the way and let her go.
Okay, all right. Let's do this. Let's do this, Dr. Lamb.
That's
All
what
right,
I
I'm going to
say.
share my screen. Okay, so this evening we will be discussing school budget management. We talked a little bit about budgeting previously, but we'll take a different spin this evening. We've talked about where funding comes from, starting at the federal level. That's the highest level. Then, so that would be like our ESSER funds that we've received. State trickles down to state, and that's like North Carolina has a lottery, for instance. That's through the North Carolina lottery system, and a lot of those funds are supposedly used for capital expenditures and such. Local funds, mainly coming through your tax system. And then you have your school-based funds. This is where you receive some grants. You might have partnerships. My school has a lot of partnerships that give us funding for different things. This is where you have your booster groups, your athletic booster, your arts theater boosters, and clubs, and then, of course, fundraising. All right, so the process for planning and allocating resources. Of course, we started at the federal level, then the state level. Once it trickles down to your local level, we're going to kind of focus on the local and your school-based level at this point. So from the local standpoint, you're looking at your superintendent of your district who answers to the Board of Education. For school-based, the school principal is supposed to be consulting with your school improvement team. So just as the superintendent does not act alone, he consults with the Board of Education and they get all in one accord. You as a school principal should also not act alone. You should get on board with your school improvement team and work collaboratively. So when you're looking at planning and allocating your resources for any school, business, company, you always need to start with the needs assessment so you can determine what your needs are, because your needs may be different than the next schools, the next districts. So you have to determine what you need. So you're pulling data, you're pulling your teacher working condition survey, your North Carolina report card. Students, we have a lot of student surveys now. So what do the students, these are the ones you're serving, what do they need? What do they feel that is important to them? Review your vision, mission, and previous goals to see how all of that works out. And then look at the gaps, any gaps and discrepancies. Make sure you're prioritizing your needs. Be proactive. Do you have action plans? Do you have SMART goals? Look at all of that. So our district, and this is the first year they've done it, they have had every school to create a district presentation of their school improvement process and the things that they need to be successful as a school. At the beginning, it was I can't even think of the words because, I haven't been a principal forever. And it's like, okay, I'm trying to get school started. And then you're making me do this. After the fact, it is the best thing ever because it actually forces you to reflect on years prior, and it forces you to plan ahead. It's no way by doing what I did that I could wing it through the year. So, as I reflect and retrospect, this is the best thing that could have happened. And I'm going to share this with you. So this is what I had to present to the district, and every school had to present to the district. Of course, in planning, you're looking at, and your needs assessment, you're looking at your demographics. You have to know who you're serving. So we had to put this together with our vision and mission, and we're a cooperative and innovative high school. What does that mean? Demographics again, and as it reflects or as it kind of correlates to your end of course scores. Our proficiency goal this year, we had high goals to get back to pre-COVID. We tanked, as did everyone else in the state and probably the nation, in 2020, 2021. That was that first year that they took test scores when some students were in school and some students were, and they were like, well, if they're at home or not, we need them to come in to test because you're going to be accountable. So we were pulling kids that hadn't even come to school to come in to test. And this is what we got. So last year, everything went up. Some went up 20, 30 points. Wonderful. This year, we expect it to go up more. We may not get to 85, but we're going to get darn close to 85, and we're going to keep shooting because that's what you do. You aim for the sky and you'll fall among the stars. So we're going to continue to aim high, but it made us look at past years and reflect. Our PLC process, we had to discuss this and talk about how we are developing our professional learning communities. And all of this is going to come together when we're talking about our planning and our intervention planning. So how is the PLCs going to affect how we support our students? So our intervention plans, we have to determine our data sources. Some of these things are district provided, like Reading Plus, iReady. Some of them may not be. Alex, this is a math program. We have to decide which types of data sources we're using from, which ones the district will be providing for us, and how we can utilize those to help our students reach success. So then we're coming broader. Our school goals. Now, these are our school improvement team goals. So this is the team that's made up of teachers, administrators, parents, students, community advisors, to talk about our school and the growth that we want to make. So of course, every school should have an academic goal. So we have an academic achievement goal. We have a human resource management and teacher retention goal, and we have a culture and equity goal. Okay, so we looked at the teacher working conditions survey, and we highlighted things that were extremely low. And across the district, the family engagement had been low, of course, because of, we're the second year coming out of COVID. It's just going to take some time to get families back into the building, the whole family, and have these large group events. So we're working to increase that, and we've done several things to do that. So we're looking at all of our working conditions survey. We're looking at our professional learning plan. This is what the teachers are indicating that they would like to see. So we took all of that into consideration. Family engagement for student achievement impact. At the school level, we're looking at, these are the things that we had planned, for instance, for first semester, to bring in families. We had open house, meet the teacher night, first quarter student recognition, which took place around September, October. So in order to bring more families in, our population is nearly 50% Hispanic. We had our Hispanic Heritage Celebration. It was a huge success. So we have to find ways to bring in families. And then we had our winter family halfway there celebration, because we're halfway at the halfway point when we get out for winter break. And then finally, we talked about our areas in need of support. So these are the things that we're asking the district for. Based on all of the data that we gave them, this is what we tell them that we need. So everything kind of came together. This is where they took notes. And, you know, of course, when you're talking about engagement and family engagement and academic enrichment, funding is going to be discussed, and funding is going to be needed. So everything that we talked about, everything is summed up in this area of needing support to goals. Okay, so with that, that's our needs assessment. We're looking at now developing our plan. So with the budget report, we have to create our calendar. You saw the first semester calendar of things that we were doing. Anything that on a school level that needs to be planned for and funded for, we have to make sure that is readily available. We had a lot of positions that were intervention, math and reading intervention positions this year. So all of that needs to be included. And then you have to understand your projections. So every year you will have an allotment meeting. And this is where you sit around the table with a lot of district people, and they will talk about your funding for your school. So we have a wonderful CFO. He sent me 3 documents. The first document before my allotment meeting was my enrollment projections. So this is, again, you're reflecting on your past years. So based on past years of students enrolling in my school, this is what they project my enrollment will be for the next year, that number. So those are my enrollment projections. Then he sent me a spreadsheet that contained my full-time employee position planning allotments. So this is all of my teaching staff, my non-instructional staff, support staff, custodians, anybody that comes into my building. This is that sheet, and it lists all of them up there, what they were and how much time, percentage time they were in my building for this past year. And then the planning for next year, how much time or what percentage they would be allotted for me in my school for the next year. And then the third one is the planning allotment summary. So this is based on my enrollment projections. This is the planning that they have for my staff, my needs. So if, for instance, my enrollment projections, let's say, dropped by 50 students. As you all know, students equal teachers. So if my enrollment drops by 50 or 60 students, they're going to explain it all in those enrollment projections, and my full-time position planning allotment is all going to be explained. And then in that planning allotment summary, it's going to say 23, 24, number of teachers, 50, whereas I've had 52. So now when I come to that allotment meeting, I've got to sit and have my plan available, and pretty much that's where principals go, and they kind of fight for those positions. But like the plan that I showed you, you've got to have a plan. You can't just say, well, don't get rid of my 2 teachers. You've got to have a working plan, because they're working with a budget as well. So that's something to keep in mind when you do have allotment meetings. Students equal teachers. And also at the bottom, complete your inventory. Every year, you need to look at your inventory. You need to make sure that your equipment and your supplies in your school are functional, and that they are in good working order and they're operable. Okay, so we're coming back down to this is your allotment meeting. You've asked for what you need. You've talked about the funding sources that would support your students for reaching academic proficiency. Now you're going to the superintendent. So now once the principal's voice is heard, the superintendent and his cabinet review budget requests. So now they look at all the schools and the positions that are here and the positions that are going to go away, and they determine how to allot resources. So the superintendent's going to consult with his chief of schools, who should know what's going on in your schools, all the area superintendents and the assistant superintendents over academics and such, your CFO that does the allotment sheets and puts everything together, Title I office, and anybody else. Everybody kind of sits and goes through everything for the district. The superintendent consults with the Board of Education to approve these budgets or the budget proposals. He obtains cooperation from all central functions and defends the decision made by the building level principals. So your superintendent is going to be your cheerleader. That's going to be who's going to push forth your agenda. So you have to make sure that you explain exactly what you need, why you need it, how you're going to utilize it, and how it's going to better your school and your students. And see, once the superintendent talks with the district, they will it's usually during a closed session, either after the Board of Education meeting, they go into closed sessions, or the Board of Education during the month will have work sessions. So the Board of Education will give the final approval for all site-based budgets, and they will share the budget overviews with the community members, and then they will defend their decisions. Okay, and then to sum it up, understanding just the law, I pulled this off of our Gardner Webb website. Let me go to that. Budget laws, always important to know. Highlighted a few things. The powers and duties of the principal. Okay, the principal shall shall maintain a copy of the school's current budget. Your bookkeeper, treasurer needs to be a very close ally of yours. That is the person that you're trusting with analyzing your funding and making sure everything is put in the right place, and helping you go through and deciding where to pull money from and how to utilize the funds that you have. So make sure you always go through, make sure you know how to print out your budget at any given time, especially after you've made several large purchases. Maybe if you purchased t-shirts for your senior graduating class, and a couple $1,000s is gone, and teacher appreciation week now, and a couple $1,000s has gone. Print out your budget, look and see, okay, so that's where that went. You need to make sure everything should line up. The next area, it says provision for disbursement of state money monthly installments. The school finance officer shall certify to the State Board of Education the expenditures to be made by the local school administrative unit. So every month, there's something called a PMR, it's a principal's monthly report. And it starts at the building level. We have to report our attendance, students that are coming to our school, because that's what we report to our district, and then that's how we receive funding. So the district, each LEA reports to the state. So everything is accounted for from the school level to the district level to the state level. Okay. So accounting system, each local school administrative unit shall establish and maintain an accounting system designed to show in detail its assets, liability, etc. So we have a system in Durham called AS400, and that's where we do all of our purchase orders. We approve requisitions, the budget amendments are done. It is a very, very, very old old system, like when computers first came out and you had to tab over everything because that's all that worked. It's a very old system. I am extremely excited because I found out that we're getting a new system for next year. So I hope to get trained on that. But I'm excited to move into the 21st century with our accounting system. Daily deposits. This is for anything, anywhere. Make sure if you have money, it gets into the bank. You put it in the bank by the end of the day. Whether you are collecting funds for a fundraiser after school, it needs to go to the bank. Whether you are collecting ticket purchases for your varsity football game that is like over at 11, then, and I've had to do this, I've had to, as an assistant principal, be responsible for the money bag. And I walk to my car with police officers and they escort me to the bank that was not too far from the school. So because I had to take it there, even though it was like 11 o'clock at night, I couldn't hold it at home and be like, I'll drop that $5,000 off at some point tomorrow. I'll just keep it in my car. You can't do that. You've got to make daily deposits. Annual independent audits, make sure that, you know, and the district will audit you, the state might audit you, but regardless, you need to audit you. You need to have an internal audit every year, at least once a year, to make sure your budget is on point and everything balances out. And that's just good record keeping. Couple of other things. School property, it shall be the duty of, okay, this is what I was talking about earlier when I mentioned your equipment, making sure your equipment is in good operating order and good working order. So listen to this, I'm going to do a little reading. Let's see, to keep all building, and it's your responsibility to keep all school buildings in good repair, to the end that all public school property shall be taken care of and be at all times in proper condition for use. It shall be the duty of all principals, that would be you, teachers and janitors, to report to their respective boards of education immediately any unsanitary condition, damage to school property, or needed repairs. All principals, teachers, and janitors shall be held responsible for the safekeeping of the building during the school season, and all breakage and damage shall be reported to those responsible for same. And where any principal or teacher shall permit damage to the public school building by lack of proper discipline of pupils, such principal or teacher shall be held responsible for such damage. So what does that mean? It means that if you are walking through your school and you see a huge light fixture that's just hanging down, swinging in the hallways, and you do nothing, and a student happens to walk under there and the light fixture falls on that student and hurts that student, that's your job. That's a lawsuit. That's an easy lawsuit because you did not fix the problem. So let's say that same hanging light fixture, you put in a work order online like you're supposed to do. And you say, well, I've done what I'm supposed to do. They say that if something's broke, put in a work order. So I put in my work order, but it's still hanging, dangling. And next day, kid walks under it and it falls down on them. Guess what? That is still your job. That is still a lawsuit because you still allow that child to walk under that hanging fixture, whether you reported it or not. What you would need to do is put out a APB 911 on somebody for maintenance to come and fix that immediately, because that is affecting, and you need to use the words, I need someone out here immediately because it's affecting the safety and security of my students and staff. I've had to use that sometimes, and that kind of gets people attention because you're telling them this is urgent. But then on top of that, until they get there, How about nobody needs to be in that area? That area needs to be blocked off. I'm sorry if, the snack machine or the classroom is right in the middle of that, but nobody should be able to go into that area. Block it off, rope it off, until someone comes and fixes it. That's what your responsibility means. It means not allowing, whether you report it or not allowing unsafe, unsanitary conditions in your school building. Okay. Now this toward the bottom, this is the Charlotte-Mecklenburg board policy, pretty much same.
We aren't seeing, your slides aren't advancing. We're still seeing the opening slide.
Oh. So you're not seeing my school budget laws?
No, we're just seeing school budget management. We just see the opening slide with the apple on it.
Oh my goodness, you're sharing. Let's see. Okay, so let me take that down then. What do you see now?
Same screen.
A blank screen.
No, the same one. We just see the opening slide of that PowerPoint presentation.
So I've been going through this.
Yeah. We can see what's supposed to be coming up, but it's not coming up on the screen. One of the things you might want to do is stop your share.
Okay.
And share your desktop rather than share the actual slideshow. When you hit share, top left is there we go. Now we got it.
Okay, so y'all haven't seen any of this right here.
Nope.
So when I was going through my regular slide, did you see all of my slides?
We saw some of them. I don't think we saw all of them, but we saw enough we could follow it.
Oh my goodness. Okay. Well, I apologize.
No, you're fine. We're good. We're caught up now.
Okay.
One of the things that I want to, while we're at a break here, in the takeaways, when you have done your assessment inventory, if you'll remember, the biggest takeaway from that assessment inventory is documenting issues of safety or security without acting upon them. You're still negligent in the eyes of the law. So what Dr. Griffin Jordan was just telling you is, if you've got something in your building and you put a maintenance request in and go on about your business and somebody gets hurt, that does not absolve you because you documented. You've got to take steps to ameliorate that. That's a legal term, ameliorate. That means keep somebody from getting hurt. And too many times, folks, that they convict themselves on that one. They document, we got this problem over here. Well, what'd you do? Well, I called maintenance, or I turned it. Well, what did you do? Well, I didn't do anything. Well, then you've just convicted yourself of negligence in terms of nonfeasance. You had a duty to act and didn't. The law says you have a duty to act. I mean, you can't blame it on maintenance. I mean, those guys, if they show up fine, if they don't fine, but you can't blame it on them. You're the responsible party. So you got to remember that. That's why you need to make sure that maintenance men have your latest shirt and that you feed them the chicken when you have whatever you need to do to get them to come to your building and fix stuff when it's a problem. That's what you've got to do. The power of persuasion.
Okay, now this right here is on the Gardner Webb site. These are the budget laws, and this is what I was referring to earlier. Right. And then I was right at the bottom where you're talking about the fundraising. We've talked about fundraising before, but just please be certain that you do fundraising right if you have to fundraise. A couple of points: using the instructional time for the purposes of fundraising. It says shall not take place without approval by the principal. As a principal, it's just not good practice, in my opinion, to have fundraising going on during the instructional day. My school day is from 9:15 to 4:15. If you want to do something at 8:30, wonderful, come early. If you want to catch them at the bus after school is over for your club, that's fine. But anytime between 9:15 and 4:15, That's instructional time. You do not fundraise. That seems to be kind of typical from what I've seen
Right.
in the schools.
That one actually relates back to one that was two above it. In the suggested fundraisers right there, the student faculty games for school levels like middle or junior highs back in the day that used to do those, they would allow that during the day because it was a community event. But when we stopped doing those, then that was the last thing that was allowable during the day. All the rest of those things, we moved those to night or weekend events. But the student faculty game in schools where kids couldn't drive was the only allowable. But I don't know that we've done those in 20 years, quite honestly.
Wow.
Because those were eventually banned because of medical liability. People getting hurt, people thinking they were still 15 rather than 45, and blown out knees and ruptured Achilles and that kind of thing.
Sometimes it's hard to grow up. Sometimes it's a little hard to grow up. It
really is. You know, one of my favorite stories is I worked with a lady in the middle school in one of the districts I worked in. Her husband was in the central office, and he had been an assistant principal at the high school and was involved in the faculty game, and he was the AP for discipline, and was not well liked. And somebody threw a football player threw a rolling body block on him, and he went one way and his wig went the other way. He was wearing a wig and it went flying across the floor like a mouse. It's been more than 50 years ago, and that story is still told in this county just like it happened yesterday. But the sad part was it nearly killed him. It broke a rib and punctured a lung, and he nearly died before they could get him to the hospital. So that was kind of the end of the monoground game at that school too, because it nearly killed their AP. Nobody remembers that it nearly killed him. They just remember his wig bouncing across the floor. So, that's absolutely a true story. I love Lois Husky, her husband, Ray. I love her. But that's absolutely a true story. But CMS was still allowing that when I got there, but shortly after, while I was in the central office, we just so to Dr. Griffin Jordan's point, we really don't. There's nothing that I can think of now that we would allow fundraising during the day.
He made something special.
Especially sales.
With some of the most iconic artists in the biz, with over 50 collaborations across genres and generations.
Okay. Dr. Griffin Jordan, you'll have to unmute yourself and continue.
All right.
I don't know where that came from.
Yeah, said iPhone. Okay, so that's fundraising, pretty much basic around whatever district you're in. A couple of other things. All fundraising shall be used to benefit the school program. So yes, if you're fundraising, it has to be directly related to your school's programs. You can't fundraise at your school because, I don't know, one of your teachers wants to go, they wants their honeymoon to be in Jamaica. So, we're going to fundraise to send her to Jamaica. You can't do that. Be nice, but that will get you fired. That's not the purpose of school fundraisers. So make sure that your school fundraisers are benefiting your school programs. And then finally, if you have a small business, wonderful. Don't bring your business to your place of employment. I've seen this at times with like Mary Kay. Sometimes people come and they'll just go around and drop their books in the little Mary Kay books in the teacher boxes and say, yeah, I'll be here during lunch if you all want, I can give you a little makeover and you can purchase some things. You're not supposed to do that. That is, you're at school to do one job. You can't be doing another job, which is Mary Kay is a consulting job. You can't do that job while you're working for the school system. So that is my summary of everything. Again, you can find the budget laws on our Gardner website. Do you all have any questions about allocating resources and financial management?
Neely said she wasn't near as young as she used to be. I wouldn't believe I'd have told that. Uh,
But
so
sometimes
what,
you don't
what in the
know.
world were you doing in a tug of war?
And the sad part is I teach high school, so two of the students on the other end are like state wrestling champions.
Yeah.
I mean, these are big dudes. It was, I don't think I thought through that decision. So it was not a fundraiser though. It was not a fundraiser, but otherwise not wise. I am officially 40 and should not do that again.
But that adrenaline was building up and you were like, I can do this beforehand.
Yeah.
We lost for sure. The team lost significantly.
All right. So if you will look, I've shared my screen. What I want to do is I have put a new Title IX video. It's the one Gardner Webb released for Gardner Webb, but basically it covers the updates from this one right here. So Title IX was updated in May 3 years ago, and this video encompasses those changes and what you're to do, not supposed to do. The big change, I guess, and I'll stop my share, is previously you could get away with investigating sexual harassment charges, anything that was investigated. I mean, that was in that realm. But the update made it clear that districts have to provide people to do that, or police departments do that. School administrators are not qualified, nor is it's a conflict of interest for them to be investigating those charges. And that's why you've heard me say for years, go to the law. We did that. I want to say when CMS, when we went away from security and went to our own police force and got our own charter, we had a sexual crimes investigator, Angie Everhart. And so we went away from it, I want to say about 2010. We went away from school administrators. They had to report it to police and have a trained investigator to do that. That is by far the best. You should always run this by your local police or school resource officer. You shouldn't get involved with these. The problem is sexual harassment is now a crime. It wasn't until fairly recently, but even then, when what happened when you started investigating sexual harassment, which is verbal, if there was any physical contact, then it became a crime. Then all of a sudden, oops, I've already started an investigation. I have to stop and back off and go tell the police now. And they're not happy when you start an investigation without them. They don't like that. So the best advice I can give you is anything of a sexual nature, consult with your SRO. If they say go, then go. But don't until you're clear on that. But the biggest change on Title IX is prior to this update 3 years ago, this May, there were certain people designated in each building or school facility as what was known as responsible person. That's no longer. If you're an adult, you get a check there, you're a responsible person now. That's the biggest change. Now, that puts the onus on teachers as well now. Teachers didn't used to be responsible persons. They are now. And that's what you've got to convey to your faculty is you can't ignore this. You can't not come tell me. You can't say, well, that's above my pay grade, or I'm not the... Everybody that gets a check, whether it's the custodian, bus driver, or the chemistry teacher, is a responsible person now. They've got to come and tell you. And you got to go to your district, your reporting, your Title IX, and the police to make sure that you don't do anything inappropriate. Because again, harassment is now classified as a crime. It didn't used to be, but it is now. So you got to understand that. The rules have changed fairly recently. Now let me share my screen again. I've got some things under next week. I've got the Title IX video. I've got the update. The video goes with the update. I've got sexual harassment policies. They're right here. I've got sexual harassment presentation right here. These are the things that you need to make sure that you're aware. But the biggest thing is call the law, call the Title IX person, and make sure your faculty understands that every adult associated with that building is now a responsible person and must report. If a child comes, if they witness, or if a child comes and reports to them, they can't say, well, I'm not the one, or you need to go tell us. They must come and tell you. Can't say to a kid, well, go tell the principal. No, they told you, you are a responsible person. That's the biggie for you, is making sure everybody in your building understands that. Everybody that gets paid is a responsible person. Now, part of the wiggle room here is volunteers. Volunteers don't get paid. They're adults though. And so that would be one of the things that I would work with. I would make sure that in my volunteer policy during the vetting and the induction of my volunteers, parents, get them to understand, if somebody comes, if you witness something or somebody comes to you, you should come to me. Although you technically don't work here, you're still an adult. We still consider you a responsible person because kids see you that way. So, you need to make sure that volunteers understand that this is part of the deal. Now, if they don't say, well, I don't want to do that, well, then they can't be volunteers at your school. I know that sounds harsh, but I'm telling you, it's the not reporting and the covering up that gets you in trouble. That's the piece that gets you, is not following through, not reporting, all those things to try to keep those bad incidents, those persistently dangerous, off your record, or your bad PR, or never goes well for you when you try to hide it. You're better off just to face it head up. That's why I say get in touch with the police. Well, I don't know. You'll have some people even in your central office who won't like that. Well, I don't care what you like. You're old enough, your likes won't hurt you. I'm not going down with the ship here in order to prevent a little bad PR for the central office folks. Sorry. The law is very clear on what my responsibilities are, and I'm going to follow through with those. That's just like I told you. They used to call me and say, what should I do with this? Well, have you reported to law enforcement? No, well, hang up and call the law. Then I'll give you advice after you've involved them. But we're not ever going to get in a situation, you should never get in where even the appearance that you're not trying to do the right thing. That's the big thing. So, as a reminder, let's go back up here to course overview. Here is the grade scale. You should be able to look under my grades and see how many points you've got now. This only applies to a couple people. If you've got, I'm going to try to give, I've only got a couple. If you're below that 2,500, I'm going to give an incomplete. So here's the deal. You've got 2 weeks from today. And now I'll keep my shell open right on through the break. And you can keep on, you can add your, you can keep working on your evidences. You can work on your CAP with me up until the time that classes start the week of the 15th of May. This shell will stay open unless Blackboard is down, and I will grade every day and I will continue to work with you. But our goal, if you'll remember, our goal is that you have the OMA and the skip completely done, and that you've started your CAP. Now, again, that one's optional, but we're trying to make sure that you've got the best chance possible to graduate this summer. Now, again, you'll say, Dale, but I know you don't graduate this summer. You will graduate the last Friday. We won't have the commencement until December, but you will graduate this summer. So we need for you to, not have to come back in the fall and pay $6.99 to finish up your task stream portfolio. And so here's the bad news. I'll go ahead and remind you again. Excuse me. $6.99 internship continuation is 3 credit hours. With fees, technology, all that, it's $2,800 I think it's like $2,000. If you don't finish your portfolio this summer, you will not graduate. You will be referred to internship continuation for the fall, and that costs about $2,000. So this is a $2,000. Now you'll finish in December with, then, and you'll walk at graduation in December with your group. Will just cost you $2,000 more. But also a negative is you won't be able to apply for your license the first week in August, and you won't be able to take a job for the fall. So we're trying to get you where you would be eligible if you graduate, not walk, but graduate before August 1st, you're eligible for employment in the fall of the year. So you got a lot riding on this. My shell will stay open. We will not meet next week. We'll let this be our last class because I want you to get your work. If this is slowing you down, having to come to class, don't let me slow you down. We can skip like next week because next week's graduation, we always have that extra session if we need it. But I need for you to make sure that you knock out the OMA and skip and get as far on the cap for those of you who are ahead as you can. So I think that's everything for this semester. Again, you will graduate the last Friday in July. We will not have a ceremony. That will be in December, but you will still graduate. And then after the following Monday, you can get your official transcript and apply for your license in North and South Carolina. South Carolina people, please remember, it's divided into elementary and secondary. If you've got hours in both, just remind me and I'll recommend you for both. The cap is not last. The cap is the fifth of the evidences. It is the last of the original work. Let me say that again. The cap is the last of the original work. The last one, the SOP, which is in our shell, is various parts of each of the first five where you're actually building that school improvement plan that Dr. Griffin Jordan talked about tonight that you got to go back and visit when you're looking at your budget, how you did. So you're going to take the first five, and from that, you're going to build your school improvement plan. That's why it's called School Improvement Action Plan. You're doing the same thing a principal would do. You're taking all these parts that you did before and putting it together in one cohesive plan. So Neely, we'll get to you just 1 second. So let me share my screen again. So if you will look in our shell down here at the bottom, you will see 605 materials. You'll let's see, cap, turn it in, case study right here. 605 textbooks. Also under Zoom session 14, you will see the template. This is my gift for you. I always give you this at the last class. So it's under Zoom session 14. Here is your template. I made you a template. I know how y'all like templates. So if it'll open, it may not open, but anyway, here is the template. It's not going to open. Let me see if I can. Yeah, it's trying. Let's see if it's going to open. But what I've got, here it comes. What I've got in the template, if I can get this out of the way here. Okay. Here's your template. It tells you exactly where you'll find the information, what parts. Background description of the setting, you should have that. You wrote that, skip task 1, prompt 1. And then when it asks you for these things, here's where you'll find them in red, where everything they're asking you for. I've told you where it is and where you can find it. Look at that. Right down the line. So that is my gift to you, is that one. So no, it's not the cap is not the last, but it's the last one that you have to collaborate or actually go out and collect data or do anything. It's now just the last one is just pulling it together and putting it. But now remember, there are 6 tasks in the last one. It's a booger, 6. So that's why we want to have the majority of that cap at least knocked out before we get to that last summer session where we got to do the cap and the SIOP in the same semester, finish up your competency folio and everything else in your in your task stream portfolio. So that's a lot, plus all your standards project that the state requires in 605. It's busy time. The more you get done between now and May 15th, the better shot you got finishing on time that last Friday in July and not having to pay that extra $2,000 to come back in the fall. You know, word to the wise. Neely, question you had?
First and foremost, thank you for the template. I know I personally appreciate that. I'm sure on behalf of our class members, they all do as well. So in South Carolina, if we want elementary and secondary, we have to sum of our hours in elementary. Is it a certain amount? What's that?
1 semester.
So this last one, all my hours would have to be elementary if I wanted to do elementary and secondary.
If you get 80, I'll sign off. If you get 80 in an elementary, which is actually, if you can go over and stay for 2 weeks, if you stayed 8 hours a day for 10 days for 2 weeks, that's what I always say for everybody doing South Carolina. Just go over there for 2 weeks, get somebody to let you go over for 2 weeks and hang out. Look at the master schedule, and there's a lot going on. Just 2 weeks, and I can recommend you for just 2 weeks, 80 hours.
Okay.
That's about as easy as it gets right there.
Gotcha.
Of course, if you had plans to do something else like work and get paid, it's not easy. But if you don't have anything else you need to do for them 2 weeks, it's an easy way to get your hours there.
Okay.
That's a great question. All right. Anybody else? Oh, I meant to say, Kelly, welcome. I'm glad you're here tonight. Hope you're doing well. Yay. Our classmate Kelly.
I'm hanging in there. Thank you for everybody for their prayers and thinking of me.
Well, that's you're young. You'll go right through that. At my age, that might be, they might just shoot me like a horse. But you're young enough. You won't even notice it in 6 months. You'll be ready to go. But,
well, thank you.
That's a tough one, but we're praying for you. Hope you get better every day. Anybody else have anything before we go? All right, it's been a great semester.
I got one question, I'm Dr. Lamb.
Yeah.
This Tori. I just wanted to know, could I do one week with the high school principal and then the other week at our Woolard Technical Center?
Yeah, as long as you get 80 hours at the secondary level, that's all that matters. You just got to document 80 hours. Don't have to be at the same school. Just have to be, at the appropriate level.
Okay.
That's a great question. Thank you, Tori.
Thank you.
Yeah, that'll work. That will work.
Okay.
A little feedback. Y'all did such a great job last week on your last case study, putting everything together. I was more than pleased. It was really good, and your reflections were good, what you took away. It's been a great semester. Y'all have done extremely well. There's no but coming. I've been very pleased. Just make sure that you look out for yourself in terms of getting as much work. Again, I want to assign grades for 2 weeks. You got plenty of time. If you're a little behind, not a problem at all. You got 2 more weeks before I turn grades in. You got plenty of time to do stuff. I'm available. You know that. I grade morning and night every day, weekends, nights, it doesn't matter. We'll just keep right on working until it's time for 605 this summer. And so if you're ahead of the game, if you're already in the cap, you might get a week off. If you're not, keep working. Nose to the grindstone. It's good practice for school administration. Kind of like what we're training you for. You never have a minute. So keep going. Again, I appreciate it. Thank you as always for being with us and showing up and doing your work every week. And thank you for choosing Gardner Webb. And I do a special thanks to our resident expert, Dr. Rita Griffin Jordan. She'll be back with me this summer. I'm so excited about that. Adds a lot of value. And somebody said thank you to her. Yes, she adds a lot of value. I mean, she does it every day. She's who you aspire to be. She does it every day and does a great job at it. So it's always good to hear from people who are still at it rather than old people like me who used to be. All right. Everybody have a good week. I'll see you again soon, I'm quite sure. Keep working.
Bye. Good luck, everybody.
Bye. Take care.
Bye.